welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, episode 4 of this podcast where we're talking about dreaming, daring, doing, and living the life that we want.
Mm.
And today I have a friend of mine called Sharon Strimling. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Jasmine.
How you doing?
Wonderful. I love your topic. I
There
love it. What more fun than to speak about this topic,
there
right?
you go. And I love your background. I mean, people who are
Oh,
listening on audio, you're not seeing that. You should go to YouTube, but it's a beautiful background. So, can you tell us, the people who are listening to us, tell us a little bit about you?
sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I just love talking with you.
Yeah,
So
me
this is
too.
a perfect opportunity to talk with you about a fabulous subject. So my name's Sharon Strimling, yes, and I'm a coach and consultant. And I share an understanding that I believe you've referred to called the three principles. But I have a long and varied background in wellness, both psychological and physical wellness. And that started when I was 20 years old, and I'm 50 now.
Mm.
So I spent a lot of time in the world of how do we thrive? How do we live to our um, to the tune of our hearts, and how do we access that in a way that feels aligned and healthy and authentic and
Mm.
not anybody else's heart but our own. So I share from that background of experience, um, and really just have honest and inquiring conversations with people that help them to see themselves more clearly and help them to see how they're having experience. So it's a wonderful job. I love my work.
Mhm.
I basically get to hang out and have conversations like this with people
Yeah.
that are fruitful, and then those conversations can be in prisons. Those conversations can be in the boardroom. I'm working with a wonderful company right now with the executive team. Those conversations can be for couples or individuals. I work a lot with youth with anxiety and depression because I was one of them.
Mm.
And that really speaks to my heart. So I think because they're human conversations and we're talking about universal principles, I get to speak with people no matter what they believe or don't believe, about what's common to all of us. And I also I'm working with an organization in London called iHeart, which is a nonprofit helping to get this understanding out to school children. So that's really important to me as well. So there's a smattering of what I do.
And you live in
I
the
live on Martha's Vineyard. I live on this beautiful island. And it's an island off the coast of Massachusetts. There is no bridge, so
you have to
you've
take
got
a
to get
boat.
here yes, and swimming is very far, so you get here by boat. Yeah, but
Okay.
I've mostly the past few years I was mostly working in the UK and spent living there quite a bit. But with COVID, I came home.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you, um, would you, looking at your life right now,
Mm,
would you have ever thought, would you have ever, you know, when we're talking about 20s to 50s, like we're the same age, right? So
yeah,
when you were 20, if you think of that girl, do you think she would have ever thought you are where you are?
that is such a fascinating question. Um, my first thought was to say I would have dreamed it, um, but that makes it sound like everything's perfect, and that's not how life is.
Mhm.
um, but to know, I don't think I had an inkling that I would have such a meaningful work life. My work life is my life with other people. So to be so integrated. I don't know that I could have imagined that how that could have happened, how I could just be a human being having these kinds of conversations with other human beings to great effect and to
Mm.
be very helpful. Um, so that kind of feels like a dream come true. But when I was at that age, I was hopeless. So largely hopeless, and very frightened. So um, and I also probably couldn't have anticipated some of the challenges I've had. I have had such rigorous challenges all the way through. I mean, I think as most people do, right? We
Yeah.
I love to quote Sydney Banks, life's a full contact sport, and has been like rugby or football or any other kind of getting knocked down sport. But I think that I didn't anticipate the richness. I didn't anticipate the difficulty. I didn't anticipate the joys, and I didn't anticipate the whole tapestry. So yeah, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. I think it would have been both terrifying and exciting if I could have seen into the future.
Well, what's interesting to me is that the dreaming has changed for me.
Mm,
Like how how I dream. Well, I could even see that um I had stopped dreaming. Because it didn't look the way that I thought it would look.
mm, yeah, yeah,
So I had literally just stopped dreaming and just went about life. you know?
yeah. You didn't dream of things in the future,
Yeah.
right? Does that mean you didn't wish for things?
Yeah.
Just kind of going through your days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, it's so funny if I look at my life the way that it is, the way that it evolved.
Yeah.
I kind of like, I guess I was looking for something out there. And so I thought, okay, once I got it, then I'll that's it,
Right.
That's it. That's it. I don't
Right.
need to I got what I wanted. And then I would get I would have this that's it kind of thing, you know? That's it. That's what it was. And then I would kind of like give that up. But then I've always been a dreamer. I've always come back to it.
Oh.
Um, but it has changed in the sense that instead of being a destination, now it's just a being.
Yeah. Do you remember like when did that occur to you? Such a big transition, such a big moment when that can happen.
It hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that long. Um, if I think of, I guess when I hit my 40s, I had a health scare.
Mm,
And I think that probably had something to do with it.
mhm.
Like, it's just like, okay, I'm here. Like
Yes.
just the dream of being here is just like great. I love it.
Yeah.
I think so. It hasn't been that long. Although now that I understand the three principles, I could see that I have lived the life that I wanted.
Mm,
And then my thinking would get in the way and make me stop. Do you understand? Like
mm.
make me stop that, oh well, like the thinking, the thought of this is it, that's all, like this negative
Yeah.
thinking that showed up.
Yeah.
would make me stop, and then I would say, okay, well, what else? What else can I do? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you didn't realize that your experience wasn't coming from the thing itself.
Yeah.
So you'd get what, I hear this so many times and I felt this so many times that I think I was only just a couple of weeks ago. It was very recent that I said that almost the same thing, that I used to think that happiness was something you got. Like you just got to a place where you got your life worked out, or you got your psychological evolution worked out, and then you just got there.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then you just, you know I don't know, then you were done and you got to just like have, enjoy it forever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I have been looking in this direction for a long time, but it there's different layers of seeing. And uh and I think it was maybe similarly to you. I think it was seeing, well, I did want this, I did dream this has happened. For me, what happened was when I started getting things that I had wanted for so long, and I still do this, I totally say uncle to this one. I get frightened that I'm going to lose it, and that's what tips me off. That I
Mm,
think that that's where my well-being comes from. You know, like, oh, okay, I've got the relationship that I wanted, but now, what if something happens? What if there's a car wreck or something? And then that thinking tips me off to the fact that I thought, a moment before, that my well-being, that this journey was about having that and keeping that,
mm,
instead of recognizing what you said before about thought. That, I mean, of course I get to enjoy it, I get to enjoy the thinking, I get to enjoy the fantasies, I get to enjoy all of that, but that beneath that is just this ocean or river of well-being that never left and wouldn't leave. Like the other day, I was thinking, I was having this beautiful morning, and I was thinking, I had two thoughts. One is, what if something happens to my relationship, and the other is, what if something happens to my mother? Those are the things that I get most frightened about. And I thought, well, that's so interesting because I'm having this beautiful morning, and suddenly I'm not. Because
yeah.
I'm having the thing that I'm worried about losing in the future. So in the present moment, I've already lost it. In the present moment, it's like it doesn't exist. I'm already experiencing everything that comes with that whole palette of thought: grief, loss, fear, all of that. That's amazing, isn't it? Like, I just yeah, I just love where you're going, because I find that's an ongoing journey for me.
Mm.
You know?
I'm super happy that I got it.
Yeah.
and and like, I'm starting these podcasts and I love it. I just love doing
Mm.
it. I mean, this is like having a conversation with my friends and people are just eavesdropping. uh,
Yeah, it's so great. It's so
and
good of you to share this with people.
I heard, like, this weekend I was doing a coaching mastery with Michael, so I'm constantly, you know looking in that direction, and I'm constantly looking deeper and seeing different things. And this weekend Michael was saying that he was doing a podcast, and it was like, I said, and he said, people are eavesdropping and what we're saying, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing too. So I
Yeah,
thought it was super cool.
it's super
But
cool.
the reason, the thing that I saw, why I'm bringing this up, is the thing that I saw this weekend. I've always believed, I've been studying this for a little while, you know, whether it be with the three principles or any other aspects. Um, I like one of the things that I saw a while ago was that between two people there's a space, and in that space, because you know when I live alone, I've been alone for a long time, like I've been single for a very long time, so I spend a lot of my time alone with my pets. um, and I really I love
I
it.
don't think Booty thinks you're alone.
Yeah, I'm not
Like, what
alone
am
with
I, chopped
I'm
liver?
no human interaction. I've got a lot of pet interaction.
Yes.
But one of the things that I noticed, and I think one of the reasons why I spend a lot of my time alone is because you know, it was difficult for me to be with other people.
Mm,
Just like because
yeah.
they would bring in their fears, and they would bring in their um, judgments and their, you know, like, so sometimes it was just like difficult for me to deal with it. And so I was easier for me to just spend time with a dog who just looks at me like, I love you no matter what you do, I love you. You know.
Yes, yes.
And then the more I looked in this direction, the more I noticed that between two people there was a space, there was this space between us, that space was there. And I started seeing that I was bringing things into the space. So I was bringing my thinking, you
Yeah.
know, that my
Goodness.
thinking that I thought was true, my all of my things that I thought was true.
Yeah.
and and then if these people didn't agree with mine, or if I didn't agree with them with theirs,
Yeah.
then it was difficult. Then I found it challenging.
Yeah.
Like it had to be, it had to agree. If it didn't agree, couldn't do it, you know?
Yeah.
And this weekend I saw that this space is always there.
Mm.
And I can see what's in the space.
Mm.
I can just notice, and I don't have to do anything with it. I can just say, oh, there was judgment there, or there was love there.
I love
And
that, Jasmine.
that I that was like, it was just beautiful to
Mm.
notice. And this morning, where I'm going with all of this takes me a long time. I'm circling.
I'm
So
enjoying the journey. Keep going.
in in something that I like to do is listen to reality TV. Just don't tell anybody. I love to listen to reality TV. And this morning I was listening to an episode, and in my mind, so this guy is screaming at this girl, and what showed up in my mind was, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's just an ass, you know? And then the thought came in to my mind, and I was like, that's what I'm putting in the space.
Mm.
And I'm believing it,
Mm.
instead of just seeing, because then the way I look at this person differs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, like, I brought in the reality TV just because I I saw it in that moment. I saw what I was bringing into the space. And then I saw that it meant nothing.
Mm.
Now, how many things can I see like that? It's it's hard to put into words.
I think you're putting it into words beautifully.
Hmm.
I can really feel that. When I hear you talk about that space, I hear something much bigger than physical space. You know, I hear you talking about really an infinite space,
Mm. Yeah.
and how many of us feel infinite space. You know, how many of us feel endless possibility? How many of us feel uh, you know, like all the windows in the room are open? That's what I hear when I'm listening to you. And many years ago, I had a I just did it like an energetic exercise. I was in the field of body work as well. So I did this energetic exercise with somebody, and I don't remember what the exercise was, but I remember that I felt like at one moment, like my skin, like my body was too tight. Like it was whole, I don't know if it's gonna make any sense, but it was like I was in clothes that were too tight. And that when I realized it, it was like, you know, I just expanded way beyond that, you know, like I wasn't held tight by these uncomfortable clothes anymore. I say that metaphorically, it wasn't my clothing, you know, but I just I felt like that, and like, you know, all of a sudden I was in the super comfy, cozy, baggy sweats, you know, and
Mm.
beyond, you know, infinite room for my energy. Um, and Yeah, that's kind of how it feels listening to you, Jasmine, with what you're sharing. And it's such a, I think it's such a gift to share these stories, because that infinite space is so, it's so real. We just don't always notice it. And I know there are times in my life, and I think everybody else's, where we feel like we're so constricted, our possibilities for how we can experience a relationship or other people, or our reactions feel programmed, like they're carved in stone. You know, they can feel that way.
Mm.
And then stories like this, you know, just I think are are so liberating from that idea. We may not know, we may not access that space in the moment, and we may not know how to access, and we may not know how other people do, but to have a sense that that's very real and possible for every single human being, and that it happens to us when we don't even notice it. There's so many moments laughing at a joke, or getting caught up in a magic trick, or falling in love with the sunset, or playing with a dog, where all of a sudden there's this spaciousness. There is infinite possibility. We're not restricted, but we just don't really have our eyes on that.
Yeah, when you say restricted, it reminds me that, you know, we kind of hold our breath,
Yeah,
and
right.
we don't we don't breathe life.
Mm,
You know, we don't breathe it in. We're like, I can't do this, I can't do that, this can't be done, I shouldn't this, I shouldn't that. And of course we're going to be constricted.
yeah.
And of course now, and then like you're holding on to your breath. And if you could just let it all go and
Mhm.
freaking go for it, man. What do you feel like doing? Like, do you feel like talking to people? Talk to people. Do you feel like dancing? Dance. Do you feel like eating? Eat. Just
Mm,
live your
yeah.
life.
Mm,
Yeah, dream it, guys. Dream it.
mm, beautiful.
Then there's daring. What do you think of daring?
That's a good question for me right now.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. So it's funny. I'll just I'll just say a word about dreaming and then go into daring if that's okay.
yeah,
I didn't I haven't spent my life, as I think about it now, I really haven't spent my life too much dreaming up something because I think from a very early age I had this sense that happiness wasn't in the thing, even though I get lost all the time, every day. I
mm,
had an overarching sense of that. And so when people were doing vision boards and setting intentions and I was just like, I kind of just want to show up. I want to be wise. I want to show up and I don't want to get attached to things. And so I had a sense of that. And it's so funny because um that worked for a long, I mean, not worked, that just was for a long
yeah.
time until it was about a year ago that I was all over the globe. I was in England, then I was in Denmark, I was in Mexico, I was in Ecuador, because I'm that person who said yes to everything as life came. And I don't know if is that noisy overhead. The plane just flew overhead. Um, anyway,
We're
so
live.
so anyway, I had an insight, and you know how insights are. They're not really captured in the words or the concepts, and you can't really translate it so well. But what I saw was that suddenly having a vision made sense to me, and it didn't have to be attachment. It just was like I just had this sense like if I have a vision of creating something, then I might be more likely to say no to a few things that aren't really in that direction. It might just kind of help, me guide myself. But I'm 50 and that was like a year ago.
Hmm.
I think dreaming just as a topic, sometimes dreaming is like, well, like anything, my mind will do what my mind will do when I give it the freedom, when I give it the space, as you say. Sometimes I will dream and sometimes I will just be very present, and sometimes I'll get attached and then sometimes I'll remember. So I love the topic of dreaming because right now it's very alive for me because I'm enjoying the dreaming phase in a way that isn't so much attachment oriented as I thought it had been before. The daring phase is coming up because it's been really coming up for me this past year because I have things to say. And I've always been the person who I really wanted the world to love me. And guess what? When you show up and say whatever's on your mind, some people won't.
Yeah.
So it's been such a fascinating year for me. There's a way that daring has been coming out in me, and I'm so grateful for it. It actually feels like one of the biggest gifts I've ever had. And I won't say I'm 100% there, but I am showing up and speaking out in a way that I before would have seen as too frightening, like that I required courage. Now it's just organic. I have to. There's voices, that just have to speak. And I'm
Mhm.
writing and I'm going to be putting that writing out and hopefully a book in the next year or so.
Mm.
So and that for me, that's daring. That's daring. And I have fantasies about how to turn off comments so nobody can say anything because I don't want to. I have all the typical protect myself, you know, fantasies, but the daring, the freedom to just show up totally honestly and authentically, that freedom feels better than any uh dream I ever had.
Mm.
That really feels like a gift, and it wasn't something I could force. I just lived honestly and truthfully and looking in this direction and day by day. And then I actually kind of got dragged through the mud, and that helped me, believe it or not.
Yeah,
um,
sometimes we don't want something, but it's there
yeah,
for a reason, right?
yeah, right, right. So cheers to daring.
Cheers to
What are
daring.
what are your thoughts on daring? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Um, Daring for me is when I give up on a lot of insecure thinking.
Mm,
When I just go, fuck it, I'm going for it. And
yeah.
I'll deal with whatever show up, whatever shows up, I'll deal with it. But
Mm,
it's kind of like it just like at some point it just becomes intolerable to keep thinking what I'm thinking,
yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
I just go, fuck it. And then I go for it. And so
Oh.
that's kind of like that's what I see about daring.
Hmm. Was doing this podcast for you daring?
um well, I've done a podcast before years ago when podcasts weren't very popular. I've done many things in my life.
Mm,
um this podcast is was more daring because of the conversation that we're having is very vulnerable to me.
mm,
Like this is the most authentic I've ever been.
mm.
And and I've listened back to a few and I'm kind of like, oh, I annoy myself. you know
Oh, I
and
get it. Oh, I get it.
like if I annoy myself, oh no, are we frozen? Dang
I'm
it.
not. I can hear you.
Oh no,
I've
this
got
was
you.
gorgeous.
It's okay. I'm still here. Maybe it's recording. We'll see if it comes back.
Oh, it comes back.
Yeah, you never
I,
froze for me, so
I
maybe.
didn't. Okay,
Well,
well,
maybe for a second, but yeah.
I'll edit it. I'll edit it.
Yeah. I love what you're
Yeah,
saying about, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
it's definitely it's vulnerability.
Mm,
It's very vulnerable. I think that I have been striving for authenticity.
mm,
Um, I have been wanting to feel like this is me, take
yeah.
it or leave it kind of thing. You
Yeah.
know, if you don't like it, don't listen, dude. That, do that, dude, do that, whoever you are. Um,
Yeah.
so it has been, it is daring in that respect. And the conversation, who do you think you are? All of those conversations were just showing up, and I was just like, fuck it. I'm Jasmine. That's who I am, kind of thing,
Oh, I love it. I'm into that. I was just thinking when you said I am Jasmine, at the very same moment, I thought there's only one Jasmine. There's only one you. And, you know, I would hate to think that you didn't show up. And same for me, and
Yeah.
all the times that I hid and um, was afraid of being seen and still do get afraid of being seen. Like
Same.
you, Jasmine, will never be again, as in this form as you.
Yeah.
Even tomorrow you'll be different. So to um I really heard that very deeply at one point. I actually heard a voice, a very, very direct voice, and the words were very clear. And I heard them spoken to me, but I heard that it wasn't just for me. And the words were, bring it now. Not
Mm.
when you know more, not when you think more of yourself, not when you see yourself better, now. And I heard that. I get chills thinking about it. I heard that for the world. I heard that even for the people you think we don't want to hear from.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, why, but or how I would want everyone to show up. um, but I heard it clear as day, and I feel like there's really something to that. There's a perfection that's hard to see sometimes, but I'm grateful that you're showing up, and I love that this is a vulnerable show for you. It's vulnerable for me too, so
Mm,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that.
And I
Thank you.
get it's vulnerable for all my guests. I talk with guests before, and
Yeah.
some of my guests, you and I are coaches. So I mean, we have had this conversation with a few people,
Yeah.
so we kind of like, we're, even though it's a vulnerable thing, we're still familiar with it. But in
Yes.
my French podcast, I don't know many French 3P coaches. So
Oh,
I'm talking to actors, I'm talking to singer-songwriters, I'm talking to just, regular folk. We're all regular folk, but
yeah.
they're not coaches. And I can see they're like, freaking out before. And I'm just like, it's just a conversation between you and me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's it. And enjoy it and have fun. And it's going to be cool.
That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
um, yeah, I just want to, we're coming up on time here. I think, yeah, you need to be somewhere soon and I need to be somewhere soon. But I want to address the bring it now,
Mm. Hmm.
because I've I've had that thought, in the past year, where if I wait until I understand everything,
Yeah.
until I can perfectly um, say, I have this French word in my head, but until I can find all the right words, I mean, I'm never going to do this thing,
Right.
you know? And
Right.
I'm constantly looking in this direction. I'm constantly looking within and going, wow, what was that? You know? I
Yeah.
mean, so every day I'm learning something new. If I wait and, until I'm dead, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to be dead, you know?
A
So
truer statement was never said.
there you go.
Truer statement was never said.
So yes,
Yeah.
this.
You know,
So
I oh
is there something that you would like to um, say to our listeners
mm,
about living the life they want?
yeah. I think I'll I think it's a perfect segue. I think I'll actually include what you were just sharing, if that's okay. I I moved to this beautiful island 30 years ago. I was 21 years old, and I had gone through uh, a serious depression, not wanting to be alive, very, very difficult traumas. And I had seen, it's like I had seen how grateful I was that I had stayed alive. Like I had seen how beautiful, I'd tasted the beauty of this world and life. I tasted what looked like it just wasn't there before. And I moved here to write a book. That was 30 years ago. I moved to this island 30 years ago to write a book. And I had a lot to share as a 21-year-old who had been dealing with uh, a lot of suicidal topics, mental illness, a lot of things in my world, and was seeing so much beauty. Well, that would have been an incredible book, right? Like, but there was a thought, like, who am I to, like, I'm only 21, and I think I kept gathering information, and then I also got busy and started a few businesses. But and I remember somebody saying to me at some point, all the people that would hear that message from a 21-year-old that might not hear it from a 30 or 40 or 50 or 60-year-old. Like there's an audience at every stage. And when I started coaching, it was like, well, maybe I don't understand this deeply enough, or I haven't been through that deeply enough, or I haven't figured out that or had insight about that. But I tell you, there's no other me, and there's no other me in this moment, in form. We're leaving out the whole part about us not really being separate, which would be fun for another time. But
Yeah.
as this body called Sharon, there isn't another one with these experiences and this voice and this way of connecting and this way of listening. And so I think it would have been a gorgeous thing. I'm not regretting, but I think it would have been a gorgeous thing for that book to have come out when I was 21. And now I'm doing it. Sometimes I'm slow with things. But there's never another time to show up. And actually, I think what I've learned so deeply the past few years is that being so terribly human, perfectly and terribly human, so messy, and having so many areas that I still don't see clearly in, is what makes for an relatable, honest, caring, understanding conversation with somebody. It's in some ways what makes me so much more helpful. So I want to show up as I am. I want to be totally honest about the mess. I want to be totally honest about what I don't see yet. I'll be the first one to say, I'm totally insecure right now. I'm totally needy right now. It just rolls off my tongue now. It's so fun and liberating because I don't care. Or I might care in the moment, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
And people can hear that and feel that. So just to show up knowing like we all are that. We're all learning, we're all messy, we're all gorgeous, we're all perfect. We're all troubled, we're all frightened, we're all brave, we're all of it at different moments. And there's no getting that right, other than knowing it's all right. So I wrote a sort of a draft book recently, just for fun. It's called a chapbook with some pieces in it. And in the introduction, I wish I had it with me. I might. Well, it'd take too long to find it, but I basically said, if my words liberate anybody else to just show up as you are right now, then that's my blessing. That's all I could want. The world needs real people being real with each other. There's something so beautiful and so full of love about that. So I thank you for creating this space and inviting me to be in that space with you and do that with you.
Well, thank you for accepting. It was
My
so much
pleasure.
fun. I
So
couldn't
fun.
wait for it. I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to Sharon.
I love you too. I love talking with you and Boti.
So for the people who, I know that you're a busy lady, but if anybody wants to get in touch with you or wants to see, what kind of services you offer, how can they reach you?
Oh, thank you. They can go to sharonstrimling.com, and I can spell that because it's not an obvious name. SharonStrim as in Mary, LING.com. That's my website. And I'm also on Facebook under Sharon Strimling Coaching and Consulting. So I'm delighted to, and there's a free breakthrough session on the website that allows people to just check in and have a friendly conversation to see if I would be a helpful resource for them.
Fantastic.
So, always delighted to hear from people. I get people in at some point. Thank you,
Very
Jasmine.
cool. Well, thank you for accepting, everybody. Thank you for listening. So my last words to you are dream it, dare it, do it. Just live the life you want. See you later. Bye, guys.